Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to the War on Gaza Report. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we give you the latest updates from the war on Gaza. That's right, the war on Gaza that really has gone on for decades now, reached a very particular, measurable, observable, trackable stage on October 7th, 2023. And since October 7th, or maybe more appropriately, October 8th, a day after Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th, we have been tracking Israel's all-out invasion of the Gaza Strip, the full scope of the military incursion, the full breadth of the violence, every body, every policy, every illness, every development that we can cover, we do it, and we do it in ways that corporate media simply refuses to do. We try to put a spotlight on those issues that mainstream media tends to neglect. And so, once again, today, we're here on day 241. I got to tell you, some days it's more overwhelming than others, but every single day I am struck by how long, how enduring, how uninterrupted the violence in Gaza has been, even in the context of Israel-Palestine, which is a perpetual state of tension and violence and injustice. This is a lot. And we're going to begin to cover it tonight, the place we always begin, with the numbers. As of today, at least 36,479 Palestinians have been killed since October 7th. Again, 36,479 Palestinians have been killed. In addition, 82,777 have been wounded in Israel's war on Gaza since October 7th. The death toll in Israel from Hamas's attacks is 1,139, with dozens of people still held captive. And speaking of captive, 4 more Israeli captives have been pronounced dead by the Israeli military today. The family members of those groups, of course, have been outraged. They're upset, they're distressed, and they call the announcement a, quote, disgrace. And they underscore the need to get an immediate truce deal done. One of the things that has been consistent inside the state of Israel has been unrest, upset, shockingly, maybe even historically unprecedented dissent with the Netanyahu government. What I mean by that is usually wartime leaders, wartime presidents, wartime prime ministers, wartime chancellors get a modicum of grace from voters who otherwise wouldn't support them. They get a level of support and commitment and allegiance from citizens who might find themselves in other political parties. Netanyahu seems to be getting the opposite. Not only are the peaceniks not supporting Netanyahu, not only are the super liberals not supporting Netanyahu, not only are the sort of undesirable coalitions inside of the Knesset, I'm talking about people like Joint List and other Arab-centered communities. And not only are they not supporting Netanyahu, not only are the radical Jewish communities, people like the Neturei Karta, particularly inside of areas like the Jerusalem governorate, not only are they all saying no to Netanyahu, which is expected, but people at the center ain't rocking with Netanyahu. You got people who would have voted for a liberal Zionist candidate, people who are voting even to the center right, people who are voting Likud. It's not just Labor people who are upset, it's Likud people who are saying, look, Netanyahu ain't it. And the dissent against Netanyahu began before October 7th. It began as Netanyahu was attempting to restructure the judiciary and the legislative branches, effectively sending more power to the executive branch at the expense of the others. You saw people marching in the streets for democracy in Israel. And since October 7th, while some people have stood with him in terms of the ground incursion and the air attacks on Palestinians, they nonetheless have been very, very adamant in saying Netanyahu is not prosecuting this war correctly. Now, some of that disagreement with Netanyahu is they want him to be more vicious, more indifferent to human suffering, if that's possible. But in other ways, they're just saying, yo, maybe it's time for a truce. Maybe it's time for a ceasefire. And the families of the hostages have absolutely said that very thing. They've said, look, it's time to get a truce deal done. So the question is, why has a truce deal not been done? Why has there not been a truce? Well, Hamas has made it clear that they're willing to have a truce. All they've asked for is a written agreement. Israel has been very uncertain about a truce. Netanyahu has said he wants a truce, and he's endorsed a ceasefire, but his ceasefire endorsement has been a begrudging one. And the reason is because people like Yoav Galan, Itamar Ben Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, and others, the hardcore right wing of his party, have been very clear in saying we don't want a truce. We don't want a ceasefire. And in fact, they've threatened to permanently destruct or dismantle the Netanyahu coalition, the Netanyahu government, if a ceasefire comes forward. So Netanyahu is in this impossible position where, he can't start a war. He can't stop a war, and he can't keep prosecuting a war. They both come at great peril to his prime ministership. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But President Biden has stepped forward and says, on behalf of Israel, because who else would he be supporting, right? President Biden has stepped forward and, quote, confirmed Israel's readiness to move forward. I'm going to quote that again. Biden has confirmed Israel's readiness to move forward. What happened was there was a call with Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who is the Emir of Qatar. And he had a conversation with President Biden. And Biden told him that the only way a ceasefire doesn't happen is Hamas. So now he's making it seem almost as if Hamas has been the one that's been waiting. Hamas is saying, look, just give us the written agreement. We hear a lot of yapping, but give us a written agreement. The Qatari Amiri Diwan confirmed that Sheikh Tamim received a call from the U.S. president to, quote, discuss efforts toward reaching a permanent Gaza ceasefire. It added that the two leaders discussed, quote, developments in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territories. Now, despite what people are telling you on the Zionist propaganda quarters of the world, Qatar, take Al Jazeera off the table for a second. I'm just talking about Qatar as a government. Qatar has played an important role in mediating the negotiations between Hamas and Israel. As you know, no direct talks, but these indirect talks have been quite helpful. For those who don't remember, I talked about this yesterday. The ceasefire plan is in 3 phases: an exchange of Israeli captives for Palestinian prisoners, an evacuation of Israeli forces from Gaza, and then the rebuilding of Gaza, which is a Herculean task, to say the least. Now, according to this proposal, Hamas cannot remain in power. Hamas, of course, has said that can't be a condition of the ceasefire. You can't tell us we can't be in power of our own government. Israel, of course, sees it differently. They don't see them as a democratically elected government anymore. They see them purely as a terrorist organization that cannot be allowed to maintain the leadership of the Gaza Strip, which then brings its own set of questions and problems and challenges, right? Who becomes the ruling party? Does it become Fatah? As the PLO brought over to Gaza, are we talking about another group like Jabha, like PFLP? Or, is it some Israeli-backed? Are they, as they say, coming in on the back of an Israeli tank? None of these are helpful or viable outcomes. So the question is, what does day one of a peace agreement look like, given all the provisions and non-starters that both sides are articulating? So this is just something to think about. Now, this U.S. proposed deal isn't a permanent ceasefire. It's a 6-week ceasefire that would allow Israel to get out of Gaza. It would allow peace. It would allow healing. It would allow growth. The war cabinet ain't on board. I can tell you that. They haven't officially denounced it, but all the evidence that I've seen suggests that they don't want any parts of it. So we'll see what happens. Um, in addition to that, the bombing continues. Southern Gaza and central Gaza remains under heavy fire, with reports of Hamas fighters battling Israeli troops throughout Rafah. So this is intense, this is bloody, this is incredibly dangerous for lots of folk. Large swaths of northern Israel, to move on to another point, large swaths of northern Israel are engulfed by wildfires, according to Al Jazeera. Uh, these wildfires were ignited by Hezbollah rockets as firefighters struggle to get the blazes under control. Now, an interesting thing came out that I want to talk to you about really fast is that the U.S. State Department, particularly Matthew Miller, has been very vocal in talking about the fissures in the Israeli government about this deal, about the truce. Specifically, he's been one of the main voices pointing out the fact that that some serious players in the Israeli government, quote, would probably not look too kindly on a truce proposal. Now, this is again not a surprise. Bezalel Smotrich, who's an Israeli finance minister, and he's a super far right, crazy person, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of his politics. He's super far right, crazy person, the way John Bolton is here in the United States. He said that basically he has said, we're going to replace you, Netanyahu, if you accept this deal. So Netanyahu was in an incredibly challenging spot. I don't have any sympathy for him because he made this bed, but it's an interesting place to be. Anyway, we'll continue to keep you updated on all of these issues going on in the Gaza Strip. We'll continue to give you all the latest updates, all the information. Would y'all want to do a Q&A tonight? Let me know. Hit the like button, hit type yes. Let me know what's really good. But in the meantime, I want to thank you all for watching the War on Gaza report. It's been incredibly challenging to share this with you every day, but I'm glad that I do. Please let me know if you like it by hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're so inclined, hit the join button and become part of the monthly Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube family by joining and paying a minimum of $3.99 a month for a membership. You're able to allow us to survive, maybe even thrive in this intense media environment. I am an independent U.S. media journalist at this point. I still work for Al Jazeera internationally, but I'm here as a domestic independent. And so for me to produce the content that I'm producing, for me to share a Gaza report every day, to do night school every night, to do office hours weekly with a guest, and also nightly live Q&As, for me to release all the other content, it takes a team, it takes a village, it takes a lot of work. And that work isn't supported by a billionaire. I'm not supported by a venture capital investor. I'm not supported by a corporate media outlet. It's just me and on my lonesome. So I'm not saying that to brag, and I'm not saying that to beg. I'm simply saying that if you want to continue to have independent media, if you want to continue to have these kinds of spaces, we got to support them. We got to fund them. So that's why I say, please join the channel, become a monthly dues paying member of the channel for as low as $3.99 a month. I promise you, it makes a huge difference. And of course, if you're already a member and you want to support more by moving from, say, a bronze membership to a silver membership, or a silver membership to a gold membership, I would be most grateful if you could do that. Now, I know some of y'all are like, look, I love the channel. I want to support the channel. I've subscribed, I've hit the like button, but I can't make a monthly commitment. I totally understand that idea, and I don't feel anything but appreciation for what you're able to do. And so if you want to make a one-time payment, even if it's $1, literally, even if it's $1, look at these platforms and do what you can: the Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle. Right now, if everybody watching were to hit the like button, it would make this video reach so far. And second, for everybody watching were to just donate $5 via Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, we would go a long way, not all the way, but a long way toward making our week's goals. And that's what it's about. You know, we're going to keep producing either way. If you don't have a dollar to give, if you don't have a nickel to share, that's okay. Just hit the like button, share the content, spread the word about Night School, because every single night we're here doing it. Spread the word about the War on Gaza report. Every single night we're out here doing it, and we appreciate you for your support, for your viewership, and for the love. So everybody, until next time, I'll see you tomorrow with more on the War on Gaza report. But stay tuned, because at 11 o'clock I'm going live, Q&A, office hours with you all. And I'll start with Bullet the Bunny's question, and I'll take a few more. All right. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.